Hey, it's Jamie Moore here. You're on the Off the Ball League of Ireland podcast with you every Wednesday on offtheball.com, on youtube.com/offtheball, and wherever you happen to get your podcast. I'm coming to you from our video studio here in Marconi House. I'm very happy to welcome a man who's going to tell us about the very interesting Instat, which you would have heard a lot about in recent weeks, with all of the Premier Division clubs certainly using this for video and also, you know, to do all their stats in terms of passes and possession and so on and so forth. And the man to tell us more is the Instat Senior Account Manager for the UK and Ireland, Declan Ryan. Declan, how are you?
Not too bad, Jamie. How are you?
Great stuff.
Thanks
on Skype. No, Declan, thanks for having a chat with me. So for those who are unsure exactly what this is, just explain to us exactly what it does and the reason why all these clubs are using it.
Yeah, so I suppose to go back to the start, we've been working. We work with leagues all over the world. The La Liga, Bundesliga, Premier League, you name it. We work with clubs in those. So we've been working with the FAI for the last couple of years, and as part of that, we've been doing stuff for the senior men's national team, post-match reports, and some other stuff for them. So as part of the conversation we were having with them, we were talking about, you know, what could we do for the League of Ireland. Jared Dunn in the FAI was very keen to get something in place that would help the league clubs with their analysis. Up to this point, it's been a bit ad hoc in their analysis with various different levels at different clubs. Obviously, you know, it depends on the resources of the club as to how much effort they could put into it, how much they could break down games and stuff like that. So it's been quite varied until now. And as part of the discussions with Jared, we looked at putting together a league deal. So basically what happens now is after each game, both clubs, the home and away clubs, send us their video recording of the game. And within 24 hours, we'll send them back an in-depth statistical analytical report for both teams. And they will get all of the statistics in these reports then are linked to video clips. So every single pass in the game is linked to a video. So if you wanted to watch, for some reason, all 1,000 passes in a game, you could click the button and you could watch all 1,000 passes in the game. But if you wanted to watch very specifically all the passes that a specific player did, you can go down and you can drill down into that and watch specifically all the passes that that specific player did. And you can go further than that again. You can go down underneath that. You can see all the passes that player A did to player B in a game. So just between those two players. You can also see all the passes that player A did forward in the game, all the passes that were sideways, all the passes that were backwards. You can see all the passes that are complete, incomplete. So overall, there's about 76 different statistics that are broken down for each game. And every team in the league has access to their own statistics and their opposition statistics. So it's quite in depth, and it's in most cases it's a long way ahead of where they had been previously. Previously, I think clubs were breaking down their games themselves, so they'd film it, they'd take it away, they'd kind of clip it into small clips themselves for their analysis. But obviously, we are doing all of that for them now, so this allows the clubs to focus on actually doing the analysis themselves, as opposed to spending all their time breaking down the video clips. So if you've got 2-3 games in a week and you have to spend the day after a game, maybe 2 days after a game, just breaking down the game into video clips and working out the statistics yourself, you're not going to get much time to actually do any analysis of the information that you get out of it. So by us putting all of this together, keeping it all into one place for you, and you also have access to opposition statistics which you wouldn't have had previously. So it's great for all the clubs. It saves them a lot of time. The feedback has been very positive. Clubs are finding it very useful. So there's lots in it, but it's very good. It's a big time saver for clubs, and it levels the playing field a bit as well, because the deal with the FAI is that all clubs will get the same information across the board. So no one team is getting more than others. Everybody's getting the same information. Everybody has the same obligation to upload the video footage. So everybody has access to the same footage, and it's a nice deal like that. It's nice and equitable. It gives everyone a fair shout.
Yeah, and I'd say it's fair to say as well, over the next few weeks, with a number of Friday, Monday League of Ireland weekends, you guys will be, really up to your eyeballs really in trying to get this stuff ready. And from having a look at some of the video clips and also the stats that you guys have produced, like the depth of them is incredible really. And I know Vinnie Pert was in here on Off the Ball during the week, and he was saying that Dundalk have been using it for a number of years. A lot of the other clubs have just started to use it too. How do you guys actually put that all together? Do you physically have people in each stadium, and to be able to equate every incident in a game to then the PDF document that you send to them and the video clips, that if they want to see a certain player, or if certain player wants to see all of his own bits, he can just basically click a tab and all his bits are there, which is a huge help, but also I'm sure a huge amount of work to actually put that all together?
Yeah, so how it works is both clubs after each game would send us video footage, and from that video footage then we would do the analysis. We don't attend all the games because we work in leagues all over the world, so we wouldn't have the manpower to attend all these games individually. So what it is, they send us on the video. We have a video analysis department. It takes one guy about 6 hours to break down a game. If you've got maybe 2 or 3 guys on it, you can do it a bit quicker, but one guy, 6 hours to break down a game. We have a fair bit of software involved in the process as well that speeds it up. So it's not just one guy tagging each action, which would take a lot longer, obviously. The process is kind of automated as well. But yeah, so it's partly automated, partly a guy sitting down at his computer and tagging stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we just had a look there on screen for those who are watching the podcast, and if anybody is listening, you can just type Instat into Google and have a look at all the stuff there. But like, we're looking at week 6 and the different types of things that happen in games in terms of chances, shots, successful efforts, offsides, corners, and it gives individual breakdowns for every club and also for every player. So if I'm the manager of whatever club I'm the manager of, and we're playing someone on the Monday or the Friday, I can go and read that full report and see everything I need to see, apart from having my own maybe analyst or scout there. This is actually there in black and white, the different types of attacks they did, and then again, if you want to see a video clip, you can just go and do that. So it must be a massive help to managers and coaches and the people who are trying to prepare the teams.
Yeah, so and I suppose there's 2 aspects to it. There is the own team analysis, so you can see where you're weakest, where you need to improve, where you're really good, what you're doing well, what you're not doing not so well. But you can also now see the opposition's statistics as well, and you can maybe pick out some stuff that you want to focus on during the week. The guys you're playing at the weekend, they mightn't be very good at, they might concede a lot of goals from corners, for example. So you might want to put a bit of an extra emphasis on that during the week in preparation for the game. So it just helps managers, little things like that. And hopefully by, everybody having access to all this stuff, it will help improve the overall standard of the league as a whole, And
in terms of just, getting all the clubs to agree to this, you've seen over the years some clubs would be very much into video analysis, and the more full-time clubs would have a bigger budget and be able to pay people to go and do this for them. Maybe some of the smaller clubs wouldn't have, but to be able to get all 10 clubs around the table to agree to this, to sign up to it and to agree to share video too, how easy or hard was that? Because I'm sure some clubs would be of the view that, well, I actually don't want the opposition to see our video, and if they want a video it, they should come to the ground and go do it themselves. But this way everybody gets everything. It's a massive help, but it's also a massive advantage for everyone on each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I suppose that there is that concern always, but Jared Dunn, the FAI, who's the head of analysis in there, he did a lot of work on this, putting this together, and I think he went out and talked to a lot of the clubs, and the clubs themselves said that they needed to put this in place. Other leagues have had video sharing at the minimum in place for a long time now, so it's something that is kind of standard, but it was something that they hadn't been doing in the FAI up to now. I mean, there's always the fear that somebody's going to see something from your video that's going to allow them to beat you next weekend, but the same is applicable the other way around. You can see something in their video. So as long as everybody's cooperating and putting up their video, then I don't see, it should be an overall benefit to everyone rather than, an issue for anybody individually. But Jared did a lot of work in talking to the people that were looking after the analysis in each club and, getting them on board. And once they saw what it was capable of, I think that brought a lot of them around, because, even the guys that were doing analysis before this, there's no amount of work you could do that would allow you to have the same information at your fingertips as you have in a shared setting like this, where everybody's sharing their video and statistics and stuff like that. It just brings everything on to the next level. Even for the guys, we had a number of clubs in the league who were already clients in the last few years, But obviously they've even seen a pickup this year in what they can do, because prior to this they only had their own statistics, or the statistics of the teams they played. They'd play a team 2-3 times a year, so they'd have some information on them, but not enough to be reading trends and stuff like that. And they mightn't have played them in a few months. They might have changed their formation and stuff like that since then. So this allows them to see real up-to-date information on their opposition, and make adjustments to account for that. Allows them to do some real in-depth analysis on each other. And as I said, if everybody's analysing everything you're doing and finding your weaknesses, and you're doing the same for them, it should, as an overall, hopefully improve the standard of the clubs for everyone. We've also, as part of the deal with the FAI, they were quite keen that the teams that are going to be competing in Europe this year would have access to their opposition in Europe. They'd have scouting reports for the teams they're playing there. So that's part of the deal as well. So whoever they're drawn against in Europe, we'll have statistics on them, because we cover nearly every league in Europe, and they'll have access to that stuff as well, their videos, their statistics. We put together scouting reports for them, and so hopefully when they go into Europe, as opposed to having maybe seen 2-3 games that they've got one of their guys to go out and watch in advance, they'll have this whole database of how a team sets up, how they play, who the danger men are, etc. And hopefully that'll help us get some Irish soccer teams further in Europe as well.
Now, Declan, you're robbing my questions, because my next one was about Europe and about the massive help that it could be. And again, from listening to Vinnie Perth during the week, he was just saying, last year they had Rory Higgins as their analyst, and he was able to go and watch videos and see stats of other teams, but also to be able to fly and see them in person. And I know lots of managers like to actually, if they can, be in the stadium and go and see teams, and that's something that they can do quite easily in Ireland. But for these European games, it's very difficult, because the draw is made and the game might be in a week's time. So from the point of view of our 4 teams getting ready for Europe as well, literally as soon as that draw is made, you can have information on their computers, in their Dropbox or whatever it might be, in their Instat account, almost immediately, that they can get working on.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the other things, I suppose, that the advantages of even getting video from a team from 3 or 4 games at the end of the season, because of the way Europe's set up, these games are in the middle of the summer. These clubs have signed a number of new players. A lot of the guys who were in the video from the matches from the season before have left. So you can also search for individual video for players, and you can see players' statistics as an individual and how they might have performed with a previous club. So if you've got you're playing a club in Europe and they've signed a new striker, it doesn't matter that he's not in the video that you have of them already. You can go and look at him individually, separately on his own, So it allows you to drill down and give a real in-depth dive on the European teams that you're going to be playing against. And hopefully you can find some weaknesses and maybe score a couple of goals,
Yeah, and of course all of this costs money too. Declan, you've spoken about the agreement with the FAI and the Premier clubs. Is this being paid for by the FAI or by the clubs, or how does that work? Because I'm sure, for the amount of work that goes in, there's a substantial cost to it.
Yeah, it's a bit of both. I can't go into it too much, obviously, but it's a bit of both. The FAI are paying for some of it and the clubs are paying for some of it individually.
Yeah, it's just, I suppose, at the moment, in the current climate, the FAI are being hammered left, right and centre by everybody. But, things like this that they are heavily involved in, and you mentioned Ger Dunn, who's, one of the best analysts around, not just in this country, but I'm sure in Europe too, working with the Ireland senior team. And you could see them last night at the Aviva. They're in a coach's box that the rugby coaches would use, and they've got their laptops and they're actually tagging and coding the game as it's going on. So if Mick McCarthy or whoever wants to see something at half time or show the players, they can do that. And I know some League of Ireland clubs are doing the same. But the fact that the FAI have been heavily involved in this is a real plus and a real help to the clubs when most people want to hammer them in public. This is definitely a positive one.
Yeah, no, it's definitely been something, the guys in the FAI have been really good to deal with. This has happened relatively quickly, in fairness. So it's something that they saw a need. Jared, I think, was doing some work with some of the clubs last year on analysis, showing them maybe, what they're doing, best practice and what the clubs should be doing. And he saw how difficult it was for the clubs to do some analysis because of the scattered nature of they didn't share video and they didn't have access to a central platform and stuff like that. So he wanted to get something in place. So we've worked with them to do that. So yeah, there are a lot of good initiatives that the FAI are doing as well that you probably don't hear a lot about. But this is certainly something that we think will be great for the league. But I think the clubs themselves have said that, you know, the feedback has been very positive, that it's saving them a lot of time, that they're, you know, able to make a lot of improvements. Also, the players themselves are getting reports individually as well on their own stats and their own video from games. So it's helping them to improve themselves as players as well. Also, you know, and something that kind of an unintended consequence maybe, but some of the clubs we've been talking to have been looking to get a lot of their youth team games analysed now as well, just because they see the standard that we can provide for the senior teams, so they're looking to get some of their youth games analysed as well. And I know from talking to some of the clubs that when, you know, maybe English clubs are coming over looking to sign players from the League of Ireland, they are looking for this information. And previous to now, the clubs didn't have this information to provide to them, the kind of in-depth statistics on the players. So hopefully by having this statistic that they can provide and the video clips that they can provide to back up the players, they'll be able to increase the price that they can charge for these players. They'll be able to command a better fee, you know. So I think there could be several things that would come out of this that would be a benefit to the league that aren't maybe immediately apparent. Not just the things that you think of straight away in terms of improving the standard of the league, but I think there's a lot of stuff that can come from this in terms of players being scouted, and then maybe, you know, in the long run, the more players that are scouted, the more players that will stay in Ireland in the first place. So I think overall it could be a very positive move for soccer in Ireland, you know.
Yeah, really interesting stuff. Just on a final note, Declan, you know, this is an unbelievable asset for all the clubs to have, and even up to, you know, a few years ago, not every club would have had a game videoed, and, you know, certainly in the first division and the underage leagues and in the women's leagues, not every game would be videoed, and now, you know, nearly every game at all levels are videoed, and sometimes they have these magic cameras that go up on a pole and record the game themselves. You know, they don't even need a cameraman to do it, and you've just told us in depth about what Instat does, and you've kind of been at the top of this game for a while. Where do you see, you know, the analysis going next? Because it's at such a high level now, you'd wonder where it can go to next, but there'll always be something that someone will come up with, whether it's you guys or someone doing video or stuff, to help and you know, make those tools even better.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different things. I suppose while, you know, analysis is always advancing, it's still relatively new, especially in soccer, you know. There hasn't been for the last 20 years analysis has really started, and really it's only the last 10, maybe even 5 that has been done in depth. So I think there's a long way to go in what can be done with the information that we're getting now, without getting any new information. I think there's a long way to go in what can be done in the interpretation of the data that we're currently getting. There's probably going to be a lot of new advances in different things. There's different stats that are, every now and again, a new stat comes out that everybody's focused on as the key stat and the key metric. So I'm sure we're going to get 5 or 6 new ones of them in the next couple of years that will change the way everybody does things. Like the on-base percentage in baseball, we still haven't quite cracked that in football. So there's constant attempts to find the key stat for football. It's more difficult in that it's a fluid game, so it's more difficult to find a precise stat. But we're always getting closer to that. We're always getting closer to the key metric that will be the golden bullet, as they say. But we probably won't ever get there. There's always something new on the horizon. In terms of overall, then there's some incredible stuff happening in terms of, you know, AI prediction and stuff like that, and for using the data. That, you know, that could be able to do incredible things going down the line. But I think with football, because it's so new, even from the information that we have at the moment, that there's a lot more that clubs can be getting out of the data that they have, and, you know, even at the highest level of football, I think that the data that we have, we're still only learning how to use it properly, because it is a relatively new sector, you know.
Yes, well, certainly, if I could ask for 2 things, I would like drones above all the League of Ireland grounds, if that can be done legally, of course, without shutting down airports and stuff. And also the unbelievable spider cam thing that they have in, like, the Champions League, that literally comes down, like, right behind the player when he's about to take a free kick. I remember Ronaldo last year in the summer, I think he scored a last minute free kick in one of the games, and, like, the camera's on him right behind him, and he takes a big deep breath, and he knows the world is watching him, and he bangs it in. I know that's a long way down the road, but it would be great to see a League of Ireland game, maybe Bowes Rovers derby or something, and some spider cam footage or a drone or something would be really cool, and maybe that might happen in the future. And that is really interesting stuff on Instat. Yes, listen, that's the senior account manager for Instat for the UK and Ireland, Declan Ryan. Declan, thanks a million for your time. The best of luck with Instat moving forward. I'm sure we'll speak again. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Jamie. Cheers.